to another week of the DP World Tour picks and bets. Skylar, Hoke here, Tom Jacobs. It's great to see you. It's been a month off, pretty much, man. It's nice to see your face.
Yeah, and yours. Yeah, it is nice to touch base again. It's been a while. I can't work out if I'm incredibly excited for this event or dreading it. I think it's probably going to be our hardest. I'd say it's our hardest test yet, and that might even be over the kind of 2 or 3 seasons we've been doing it. Like, I don't know how you go from a month off after already playing a sporadic schedule, then you're playing in Japan where a lot of players have never played before. I guess it's really difficult to handicap.
Yeah, it's probably as hard as it gets from a break standpoint, and then a co-sanctioned event. I mean, realistically, when we go through our cards, right, a majority of our betting cards are actually going to end up being golfers coming from the Japan Golf Tour on this co-sanctioned side of things, and that happens too in South Africa when we do a sunshine event, right? We lean that way at times, but yeah, and the other factor is those golfers have been playing. They've had 2 events in the last 3 weeks, right? So I think some lead-in form from that standpoint is valuable too. So it's an interesting week. Obviously, you know, we're coming off of a Masters. We're coming off of a Matthew Fitzpatrick win for the both of us at the Heritage, which was
nice,
really good to see and fun for the bankroll. So it's good. Good vibes all around, I think. And the last show we did, Tom, we haven't talked since it, right? That was the Nick Bockham W.
Yes. Yeah, so only positives, isn't it? Wow, that is a long time ago. I feel like we didn't get to victory. That was the one thing I remember distinctly from not following up that week was that we didn't get to victory like Nick Backham for you. Like it after a triple-digit winner, that pretty much sucks. We didn't get to celebrate that. So we'll do a little clap here. Well done. And yeah, no, let's keep it going. It's extraordinary that it's been a month since then. Lots happened in that time as well. Interesting point you made about the fact they've been playing, right? I think I was very keen this week to not get caught in the Japanese players in Japan trap because of what happened when I did that in South Africa. But I think it's a completely different situation this time around because we're not doing it based on the fact that they play well in South Africa and Japanese people play well in Japan. I think we're doing it based on the fact that, like you said, they're match fit and they're not players that have been missing for, because some of these players that are at the top of the market weren't even playing a couple of weeks before the break either, so they've had like a month off, 6 weeks off, and that's a long time to not been playing golf. So it's actually the match fitness and sharpness as opposed to just the location of the event as well.
Yeah, I mean, Rasmus Højgaard hasn't teed up since February 8th, I believe, in a pro golf event, right? Like it is. I'm rather disappointed that Thorbjørn Olesen is playing with Nicolai this week. I don't know why the twins aren't together in that event. It's a little odd. Maybe Rasmus felt he needed to get going on the DP World Tour, but
I guess maybe is it like a Ryder Cup thing? Does it make more sense for him to play getting the European points than it does to get the world points? Like he realizes he's not going to qualify for the world points. Like maybe.
Yeah, I was looking at that too because they only get 6 spots all versus the U.S. does the 8, right? So like it really sucks for like Yannick. Yannick's sitting there in 4th on the world side, right? And Yannick, I mean, you basically have no shot, right? Because you can't get past those top 3 realistically without a really big year. I mean, you could be captain selections, but I mean, a lot is to play out. It's just hard. It's very difficult to qualify in that realm when only 6 of the spots are available. So maybe that is the case. I mean, Nicolai has picked up special temporary exemption. It's tough because like that's what we want to see, but it's really because Fox is getting pretty close to it too, right? Fox pretty much just needs like another.
Lose everyone.
And so we're losing, guys left and right to the DP or to the PGA Tour, which I guess in theory these co-sanctioned events might end up being even some of the stronger fields that we have. Like it's a decent field overall, I feel like.
Yeah, and I think I kind of read a couple of things to sort of say that you want to play Europeans this week because they're still a lot stronger than the Japanese guys. And I think that's a disservice to Japanese talent level. Like I think there's a lot of really strong Japanese players, and I don't think you truly know how deep their fields are until you see them in action here. So how the triple digits perform, etc. in this week, because we've seen it a couple of times now where like Nakajima's come over and played well on the PGA Tour, Kazuki Higa and Kawamura and people like that played well on the DP World Tour. Kanaya as well played well on the DP World Tour and the International Series, like just one over there. So their form really does translate these Japanese tour players. So I think maybe being overlooked slightly. Was tempted to steer away from them because I think they're maybe slightly undervalued in the market, but there's just a couple I just couldn't avoid.
Yep, absolutely. So I think overall, well, I mean, the only other, and I'll bring it up with one of my selections late. The only other, I mean, the Zozo Championship has been played in Japan. After I think last year was the first time they were able to go back there to play it. The Olympics also, if anybody had some Olympic experience, that would have been one. And I guess even in relation, right, we're at a Jack Nicklaus course, right? It's called the Ishikawa golf course, right? The PGM Ishikawa golf course, which also, to factor in everything, has been a course that has been seen the last 2 years by a good chunk of the Japanese Golf Tour players. So all of that accumulates kind of into our decision making for it.
Yes, I agree with all that.
Cool. All right, we'll jump right into the picks. And I mean, as early selections have come out, even as our betting cards, I do think there's some similarities across the board in the kind of the way we're leading in. Because the top of the leaderboard, Lucas Herbert is coming over. He was in that Zozo Championship. He shot a final round 63, but his other 3 rounds were terrible. But I'm always a sucker for Herbert, and he is basically the leader in the market. I guess not really, depending on where you are. Rasmus, I guess, would be it again. That's been 3 months, pretty much 2 months since he's played. Bezadenhu coming off of a great Sunday. Bob McIntyre 22s, Herbert 22s. The lone Japanese Golf Tour player, sub 30 to 1, even sub 40 to 1, I think in some spots, is your first selection for the week. On Hoshino.
Yeah, so Rikuya Hoshino is someone that not only has he finished first and second on this golf course, but he's also finished 6th at the Ras Al Khaimah Championship when he came over to the DP World Tour. And I just think when you factor all of that in, the fact that he's been playing, as we said, he's had those reps that other people haven't. I think that's really important. So, never finished outside the top 2 on this golf course. His average score here is 64.88 over those 2 starts. As I said, 6th when he played at Ras Al Khaimah. He was a 54-hole leader last time he played. He finished 2nd there, and he's a 6-time winner in Japan since turning pro in 2017. So everything to me points to Rikuya Hoshino playing incredibly well at home. And like I said, I thought it was really important that he played well on the DP World Tour before, because we have seen it where the form doesn't always translate. But he is one that's shown it. A couple of other picks will be as well. And I think that's a really important thing. We've seen him do it on two tours. He's come back to a golf course he absolutely loves, and I expect him to go well again this week.
Yeah, he would be definitely the pick of the litter for me from the top of the leaderboard. I still have a difficult time just landing there overall at the short prices with so much uncertainty. I like a good long shot. So, me starting in cards sub 30 most weeks isn't really happening all that time. But yeah, I mean, that all collides into why you think he could do it here. And multiple tour success, I think, is a big thing. As we go down, I think there's almost like 4 or 5 golfers you could realistically lump together. I think for me, I'll loop 3 of them all together. I landed on 2 of them, but we're just overall discussing each and every kind of year the new pick of the litter from the amateur who was probably the #1 amateur in the world at some time, who had a ton of success, has popped over into some big time events, done well, now hit the winner's circle multiple times. And those 3 golfers are Taiga Samikawa, who won last week on the Japan Golf Tour for the 3rd time already in his career, Kita Nakajima, who is 50 to 1, and then Takumi Kanaya, who is 45 to 1. Now, the funny thing in golf sometimes is you almost don't even want the guys to win the week before you bet them, right? Like Taiga coming in off a win, 1, reduces his odds. 2, I mean, no one touched Rahm last week at Harbortown. Not saying that the Japan Golf Tour is the equivalent of always winning, the Masters, obviously, but it's a big breath of relief when you do have a W. So Samikawa is the lowest 3 on the odds board. I am landing with Takumi Kanaya, who finally got over the line a couple weeks ago, and he has been playing on the international series, which, I mean, it's a sad state of affairs in some ways, that the DP World Tour strength of field probably is similar to what the Asian Tour is rolling out, especially when you get a Paul Casey popping over for an event like that or something. But he's back to back. I guess he won one of them in Oman. Then he was fourth in Vietnam. Obviously, has a ton of Japan golf tour experience. When he was just a prolific talent coming out, winning. So was Nakajima. I think both of those guys in that mid tier are my starting points.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, Kanai is someone we talked about for an awful long time on this show, probably since the start of its guy when he was like really young, get some spot starts. And Nakajima as well has been the one that's been playing on the PJ Tour. He was actually meant to be. This is one of the things I didn't particularly love about the Full Swing documentary on Netflix, is there was like so many players mentioned that they were going to be a part of it. And Nakajima was one of them, and he just never materializes. It all just kind of revolved around a PGA Championship, and I don't think he was there. So, but that was a bit of a weird blow. But yeah, he's been playing really well, played well on all the tours, as we said, is really important. So yeah, like Kanaya and Nakajima, and to break those Japanese players up, Sky, I've actually gone with Yannick Paul at 31-1, because you mentioned him off the top. He's kind of in those kind of Ryder Cup standings. He probably won't get in without a pick, but the fact that he had 2 second place finishes coming into the break, and we have no reason to believe that his form is lost. He just hasn't played. Not entirely sure how well he will adapt to Japanese golf, but I have no reason to believe that he will struggle. And I think this is going to be the true test of like how the Japanese players stack up against some of the best Europeans. I know we've obviously got Rasmus Højgaard, we've got Robin McIntyre, etc. But like you said, like Højgaard's had so long off, I couldn't touch him as a 14-1 favourite. Because Wiedenhout's coming back from America, Lucas Herbert, whatever he is, what he is at 20, we like to play him at a slightly bigger number in deeper fields. And I just thought that for me, like Yannick Paul really does stick out as one of the better options. So it's actually 35-1 now on DraftKings Sportsbook for Yannick Paul. No reason why he can't better those 2 second place finishes.
Yeah, I 100% agree with you on being the favorite of the DP World Tour players priced wise. I mean, I bet Herbert last week at Harbortown at 250-1, right? So I mean, it is a very sharp decline of somebody who has not shown a ton of life recently, besides at the match play where he was very, very good. I think he's just somebody, just like we said with Kitayama, that at bigger numbers you can back no matter anything. 22-1. I would lean Yannick from what we had seen going into it. Yep. So I didn't mean to skip over there.
No, I think with Herbert as well is like it doesn't take a lot. Even you get to like an Irish Open or whatever, like he's already won one of those, I think. But like you get to a Scottish Open, Irish Open, where there's this, it might be a Rory McIlroy, Xander Schauffele, whatever in a field. He's automatically like 40-1 again. You think you don't have to rush to the window to bet Lucas Herbert at 22-25-1, whereas this is Yannick Paul's price basically every week. So if you like his form, I would go with it at the 28 or 35-1 now.
Yeah, and I mean, we probably put a lot of stock into reps in tours, right? Like we had this big discussion, obviously, with live golfers coming over to the Masters, and not to say like it was a win in the sense of what it was, but a lot of people were very impressed with what the live golf, a lack of golf they've played. Yannick could be out there every single day.
Obviously grinding,
Like I saw Pedro Figueiredo was winning mini golf events, mini tour events in Portugal during the break, right? Like these guys do get competitive reps, I'm sure, but nothing that we can bank on and know, against the best in the world. So I'm going to loop 2 golfers together here in the next range, one that I'm on, one that you're on, and think again in a similar. Now it's almost like a graduation of the young star versus somebody who's got a little bit more experience under their belt. I guess Higa's still young. I mean, he's 27 years old, right? And, I just think it's somebody who's shown a little bit more of a track record when it came to Japan Golf Tour success, DP World Tour success, and I'll let you do a bigger sell job there. I am landing on Chan Kim.
Yeah.
Chan Kim, 33 years old, currently playing on the Korn Ferry Tour. And when the Korn Ferry Tour events started, so he got through Q School, And when those events started, I mean, him and Chris Goddard basically were like the stand away favorites, right? They were 18, 20 to 1 in those type of events. Again, with the field strength of DP World Tour, I have a tough time thinking it's all that much different from a Corn Ferry Tour event.
Not at all, no.
And he is not taken on great to the Corn Ferry Tour, right? I mean, you're looking at miscut, and then finally makes a cut and rips off 5 in a row, 4 top 25 finishes in a row for him, which is, the strongest sense of form that we have seen. But the guy was an absolute dominator on these type of events, for basically 2018 through, I guess, 2017 through 2021, racking up 5, 6, 8, 9 wins if you include 22, right? Like, the guy can play. I think the fear for me, and we haven't even really talked course setup, and I don't think much having to factor it in, but it seems like accuracy maybe a little bit more of a factor, and it's going to be a really low scoring event. We're going to see mid-20s again, more than likely. He has had some very difficult wins, single digit to par wins, so that's what I liked him in some of those, maybe even majors when we've been interested in Chan Kim. But I just think 50 to 1 is just the wrong price for what we know of him.
Yeah, like talent level wise, there isn't really much you can say. Like he's probably mispriced based on world ranking and talent alone, and then you've got to decide from there whether you think he can win or not. And I think you've pointed out the one negative is that we don't know necessarily that he goes to those deep numbers and how accurate he is. We thought that's why he was going to be so good for the Corn Ferry Tour, was that he'd be able to kind of spray it and hit big and things like that. Hasn't materialized, so why not give him another chance when he comes back to the DP World Tour, Japan Tour, where he feels very, very comfortable and plays well. And to go on to Higa, he's another one, right, that's got 6 wins in Japan since 2019, which is, pretty impressive. And again, I know these people, we kind of talk about people, the Japan's not being quite as deep, and how much does that mean? But I think they're still very competitive, and a win's a win. And when they carry it over onto the DP World Tour, it's particularly eye-catching. And 11th and 4th in his last 2 starts for Kazuki Higa. He now returns to a golf course where he was 6th last time he played here, and he was actually a 36-hole leader last year. Like, I don't really see a negative for Higa. I know he's obviously missed a couple of cuts recently, but the Valero Texas Open and the Masters, where you wouldn't necessarily expect him to play well, right? So. And when we talk about Rikuya Hishino, he's beaten him twice in his 6 wins. So his first win ever was at the event they name after Augusta, and he won by 5 strokes, shot 26 under par. And his last win was against Mito Pereira at the Dunlop Phoenix, and he won by 3 strokes at 21 under par. So he's a deep scorer. He's had 4 of his 6 wins have been 20 under or better. I just really like the way he's played since he's been on the DP World Tour, and I don't see any reason why he'd struggle on a golf course that he knows.
Yeah. I think our friend Ben Coley brought up a good point that we would probably, some of these golfers that are getting opportunities on other tours, whether it be the Corn Ferry Tour, whether it be the PGA Tour, majors, like they would likely be different prices if this event would have came right at the end of the Japan Golf Tour season. Yeah. Higa wouldn't be 50 to 1. We just haven't seen the consistency of form because he's been popping over all across the different tours, right? But when on tour tips, you filter by location, all of these guys are like the top 5 guys pretty much when they're getting back and in their roots of playing on the courses they've been familiar with and playing on the Japan Golf Tour. So I do think it factors in a ton, and even selections that may have not. I mean, Yannick Paul, truly, I don't know if he has any experience in this part of the world, right?
I think he's played a couple of times, but I just don't see it being a negative. But to your point, like, we've picked 4 of the top 6 players in terms of Japan form.
Yeah,
like it's
sure. And like the next one, I think I love that. I mean, we work on a lot of pronunciations overall, but I know I nailed this one, and it's Jazz Janawatanan. Like that one we can say, and it's not the reason we're selecting him, but Jazz has had. I mean, the summer of Jazz was almost like 3 years ago. It was like that Beth Page. Remember when he was like the leader at the halfway point, wasn't he, of a major that year?
Yeah, he was somewhere like that. Yeah.
Yeah, and he was somebody we were constantly kind of rooting. And I wouldn't say that he has really changed or evolved all that much as a golfer from that stand. He just went on a run that he didn't come through, right? He He was primarily a PGA Tour player the following year. He had 4 wins in 2019. He had 3 wins the 2 years prior, and then he just got a run in 2020 of playing PGA Tour starts and never really came through. It might have been special temporary exemption. I'm not even 100% positive on that. But basically, it took him until the November of 2022 on the international series of finally breaking back through in the winner's circle. And since then, he has had 4 other top 10 finishes, including a sixth, and a fourth the last 3 times out for him. All of those being on the Asian Tour. But I mean, if you look back, I mean, 2019, he was primarily on the Japan Golf Tour that year, and that was his biggest year. So overall, I just still think the talent is immense. Any other selling points for you on Janawanthanan? He's 55-1 is the longest odds I got for him.
Did you know that he took a brief sabbatical from golf at the age of 16 to do a monkhood?
He was a monk, right? Yeah.
And he also turned pro at 15.
I did not realize that. Okay.
Yeah, 2010 he turned pro, and he was born in 1995. Maybe he was 16, but like he was really young. But no, in his last two starts on DP World Tour, he's finished 20th. Past 3 starts overall, 6th, 6th, and 4th. He was a 54-hole leader in Thailand at the International Series, and he was a 36-hole leader last week at Vietnam, where he shot a second round 62.
I believe he had a 62 3 events ago too, like those 2 62s.
And that was the thing that caught my eye, right? Like we know he can shoot those low rounds. Like he's someone that we always kind of talk about, kind of first round lead, and this is the problem with Jenna Watson. I think you made the very key point from the start, is he's not that different from that golfer in 2019, and that's probably maybe a slight on the fact that he's not quite kicked on as we had expected him to. But the raw talent is there. He's 27 years of age. He's still got plenty ahead of him. He's now going to play, like you said, he was very, very comfortable in Japan in 2019, beat Paul Casey to win the Singapore Open. Like, there's nothing really more positive that I can say about him. I just think he's 55-1. We know he's great in the DP World Tour. He's had 2 20th place finishes his last 2 starts, and he's just absolutely tearing up these international series events and Asian Tour events. So those 62s in recent weeks suggest he should be great for this golf course.
Yeah, and I really think those Asian Tour events are as good of what you could ask for. National type of events right now. So I mean, not to say I was hard pressed to find long shots, because that is not,
it's not something you struggle with.
Really can say ever. But I really think a lot of betting cards could live in this range, right? Like you could have been on Semikawa. You could have been, just right here, just filtering more and more. Now, you also run into kind of the mid tier, or maybe even the guys that have been 40-1 and shorter on the DP World Tour for that stretch of run, too, right? Snyder, Arnas. Arnas has the double angle of narrative this week. He has the Rahm connection. He was so excited with the Spanish golfer winning, and then Sam Bennett because Arnas went to Texas A&M. So he was very excited from the Masters. So if you want a little narrative street, Arnas has both of those going. But I get deep into, I have 2 triple digits selections. Is there anybody else you'd want to hit on before I go into those 2?
So there was a couple like Aguri Iwasaki and Shugo Imahira, both 110-1, 2 Japanese golfers that have got form and playing very well. Other than that, I didn't think there was really too much for me. Aaron Cockerell seems to pop up in these kind of events every now and then when you least expect it. And I was very surprised that your Italian friend wasn't in the list at 110-1, but probably for a reason.
So bad, man. It's like you filter on recent form. I mean, he is in the bottom half. I guess like I'm probably gonna put $10 on Guido just because like that's the way it rolls, because I have to. But official selections.
Yeah, like he doesn't deserve it, right? Like there would be a legitimate issue with you if you were picking him at the moment. Versus what you've been doing in the past.
But they finally priced him probably correct. I was betting at like 40s. I'm the one that had the problem.
Yeah. But like, you just wonder what's happened after a month's reset. Like you said, we don't know what's been happening. He could have had the best month of his life practicing. Like, you just have no idea. So, would it surprise me Guido Migliotti then shot 7 under on Thursday? Probably not. But for our sakes, unless you do put that $10 on him.
I don't like him in these type of events. I'd rather have it be difficult and show me a little life, and I'm fully back.
Absolutely. Yeah,
Okay.
round us off.
Yep. So we'll go into two here for me. One at 125 to 1, and that is Sang Juan Park. So Park, he's 39 years old. He's a little bit older than kind of the crop we've been selecting. And he primarily also has been playing these Asian Tour events. So, I mean, you're getting into these international events where he went 8th and 6th, Qatar and Thailand. And then he also was playing, I mean, this is the I guess ability to jump different tours. He plays on the Korea tour as well, where he finished second just this past week. So he's had some really top finishes. He got a second also on the Japan tour in September. He had a 4th in November. So overall, he played the CJ Cup. He finished 49th, nothing spectacular. But if you kind of zoom out a little bit more on his career, which primarily was in 19, 18, 17, even kind of in that stretch, he was playing on the Japan Golf Tour. 3 wins in 2018, a win in 2019. I think you could argue that 2019 probably was his best year. He finished 16th in the Open Championship that Shane Lowry won. That was something I had zero idea that, a top 20 in a major at 35 years old, like very impressive kind of shot out of the dark there. And so just enough in that career where I am not totally familiar, but good recent form. I believe has played the course, nothing too kind of high finishing wise, but 100 to 1 for that golfer with that profile. Yeah, his experience here was back in 16 and 15 on this golf course. He didn't play the last 2 times around, but I just find 3 top 10s in his last 4 events to be pretty promising for somebody of a little bit of pedigree at 100 to 1. So that is the first selection of the long shots there for me. And then we saw a 270 to 1 on Makumu Horikawa. So Horikawa, we have just a little bit kind of a data on when we look into this. Again, we're not really getting strokes gained statistics from any of these type of events, right? We're just pretty much piecemealing together maybe by some profiles or maybe by some general statistics, somebody who's kind of been a little bit more accurate than his distance. But what we see out of his form was a stretch at the end of 2022 of 11th, victory, 6th, 8th, 8th. And then 2 times out ago, he was 5th on the Japan Golf Tour. Again, one of those golfers where he's popped over to, I think he played an Australian event, played in the International Series a couple times with not as much success. But the one thing that also stood out to me, played the Zozo Championship at the end of 2022, the one that Keegan Bradley won, and he finished inside the top 20 of that event. But was very, very intriguing on my end is he closed with 66-65, which would have been basically top 4 on the weekend, only behind, I guess, 3rd on the weekend, only behind Griot and Thigala. If you look who also finished top 20 kind of in that event, Nakajima was there, Histatun, who was somebody we haven't chatted yet, who's much higher up on the odds boards. It just didn't reflect to me that 270 to 1 for that golfer who, I mean, he was as good as anybody in those early events last fall, and has been a winner, right? He has 4 wins to his name in the last 4 years. So I think at 270 to 1 is kind of a steal.
Yeah, not to be confused with Morikawa as Horikawa, but his last two starts ago he's 5th, right? And this is form that we think will translate. So there's no reason to overlook that. Like you said, when he's been on the PGA Tour, it's great.
And he's played 4 times here. Last 3 times out, he was improving every time. So he was 32nd his first event last year, and then 11th the year before at this event. We mentioned kind of, if you look at the other golfer who's got Korn Ferry Tour status right now, it's playing that we haven't talked about, is Katsuragawa. He won at this event in the fall when he ousted Hoshino. So he's another one that you're getting almost triple digits on that might have a little bit more of profiles, but I just like the form of Park kind of in that range, and then even the price of Horikawa.
Yeah, so I looked at Park, and the only reason I kind of didn't go there in the end was a little bit, one, maybe his age and just the fact that he's probably peaked at this point, but also the fact that when you looked at his kind of wins and his style of play, it seems to be the tougher events, a little bit like you said about one of the other players earlier on, that maybe just doesn't quite go deep enough. So I've kind of tried to rein it in a bit. But that was the only negatives I had on him.
Yep, totally understand. All right, let's close it out here. Let's run through the betting cards. Also, make sure if you are an audio listener, if you're listening to us in your commutes, we appreciate you. Please like and subscribe. You can find us at Daily Fantasy Sports Picks and Bets, The Mix, Mayo Media Network. We appreciate all the support, the love. It's great to have you guys back. I had a lot of tweets during the break, like can't wait for the DP World Tour to get back going, because as much as the designated events are awesome to see the best in the world, we've had a good year so far, I think, of the DP World Tour, Tom. I would say, really good 2022, 2023 season overall, and it's kind of fun to throw these darts out there where you can kind of get some angles in. So with that, if you want to review one more time for your betting card for us.
Yeah, so it's Rikuya Hoshino at 25-1. I promise to get his name right by the end of the week. Yannick Paul at 35-1. Kazuki Higa at 50-1. And Judge Janawatanon at 55-1 for me.
Perfect. I am on Takumi Kanaya, 45-1. Kita Nakajima, 50-1. Chan Kim, 50-1. Jazz Janawatanon with you at 55-1. Sanghwan Park, 125-1. And Makumu Horikawa, 270-1. Tom, we got a little bit more of a stretch here, right? We got Japan this week. We're going to go over to Korea next week, and then we're headed to Marco Simone, which is the Ryder Cup venue. So a much better stretch as we go into the PGA Championship this year. So it's great to see you again. Let's start back with another winner. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, what is it? We're going for the 4th win of the season so far, I think, or the calendar year so far. So we had Perez, Ollison, right? Bradbury as well. So yeah, so Bradbury, Ollison, Perez, and Beckham. So yeah, been a good run.
It's been a good year. It's been a good year for sure. So let's keep that running. Best of luck, everybody. We'll catch you out next week.
Yep. Thanks, guys.